Well, hello, everybody, and welcome for the continuing series interview with an exorcist. I'm John Barnwell, and I'm here with Dr. Douglas Gabriel of a great many realms of experience and accreditation. So I won't belabor that point. But we've been having a little sojourn in Hawaii, and it appears as though we are still there. So I have my Hawaiian shirt on, but it's toned down because it is fall. And I'm just really glad to be here to see you all. And as a result of the efforts of our wonderful guidance counselor and producer, Lady Tyler Gabriel. And so here we are coming to you from the greater Motor City area. Douglas, how are you?
Well, I'm good because Dr. Tyler takes care of me. I do need a doctor at all times on staff. It's like the president who always has the EMS.
You don't have your
I
sound
know,
on.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just begging. Now you've said my name twice, and I want to tell you that we are abs. Thank you so much, John, for getting us that 1919 Tesla violet ray machine. We've been using it. It's great. I've been sharing it with my neighbors. It's great. So thank you.
Well, yeah, that's from my friend in Wales, Zishan. And
Mhm.
Zishan is from Afghanistan, and he's I got him into studying Steiner, and he's studying Tesla and Keeley, and trying to get behind that unseen realm bordering on the physical. And
But it's all good. I wanted to thank you and a shout
yeah,
out to
sure.
everybody out there in our audience who's been talking about their experiences with it. And I'll put a picture of it on this. Now I'm going to leave you boys alone. Be good now. Have
Have fun
fun.
now.
Yeah, but you've opened up a can of worms here. The ultraviolet ray
Yeah, you can't
machine
not say something.
created by Nikola Tesla. You sent this to me, and the first one didn't work because it's 100 years old. And then the second one worked so well that I literally today I was carrying a big mirror and my back got twisted a little bit. It hurts. And I'm like, yes, I have something to go put the machine on. It used to be every part of my body. I used to say, you see this spot right here? That's the only spot that doesn't hurt. Now, no. So yeah, this machine, but they sent us we bought a new one from a place and it got here and it doesn't even work. So the 100-year-old one is still fixing us and everybody around us. Anybody who comes to the house, you got any pain? You only have to run it on them for a couple minutes. Now, I want to talk about Hawaii, and I'm always trying to put my mind in the frame of the people who are listening to this to say what is relevant to them. Now, some people have chimed in who have lived on the Big Island and has said amazing things. One guy chimed in and said, "Oh, Dr. Simeona's chief student was Dr. So and so and so and so," and I was like, yeah, I think that was his name. I got people telling me things about my life that I don't know. Okay. And it's so cool because most of the stuff I've forgotten. Dredging it up, let me tell you, dredging it up is very, very difficult for me because I realize how foolish I was in those days. I realized that the things I did were completely crazy, like this right here. See that? That's Brian standing in Pele. See, right above Brian's head is Pele's vagina. Well, there's 3 levels to this lava tube, right? And you slip when you're up on that top level and fall down 2 or 3 levels, it will kill you. Here is to demonstrate to you that they literally put a gate on it once it became very popular. And Paul Mitchell couldn't handle the liability of it, so he put this gate on there. And just to show you that the other picture wasn't fake, this is another picture from there.
And that's Paul Mitchell of hair products fame. Just for
That's
those
right.
of you that are new.
Pele's vagina. These were all taken by Brian. I don't take pictures. And then I don't know who that is, but it must be Brian or somebody. But you can see this tube is amazingly long. Now you could be in that tube, and if all of a sudden the cone volcano that you can see from my house every night And then you go up further and you go to that's Pu'u'o'o. Then you go up to Halemaumau crater, and then you go up to Mauna Loa. So these are like different layers. Recently, Mauna Loa and the mountain next to it went off and spewing lava, but not this kind, you see? But sometimes it would do this. Sometimes I'd look out my house and see lava shooting up. Okay, look from my porch. Just to demonstrate that to you. And here's a picture of one day we were down there, and we always go down to watch the flows, which they tell you don't do. That's completely stupid. And I completely am stupid. I would go down. The closer I could get, the better I felt about the whole thing. And see this thing here? That's lava pouring over an edge. Now, one day, my friend Gary, who I'm calling Gary, and we go down to see this. Oh, let's see what you have to say. Then I'm going to tell this crazy story.
That was back when you didn't have any eyebrows.
Yes, that's right. When I kept burning my the facial hair off. And, and during that time, that year that I was deciding whether I was going to go around the world or stay in Hawaii, I just was so absorbed every single day that I was there that I was free. And then when I started working every weekend, literally, I can say I counted up how many weekends, and then I counted all these places I'd gone to and figured out how to get to. And literally every single weekend, I went to some place more beautiful than the last. And also true for the first year I was there. I was also bouncing between the different islands and doing different things. But anyway, so my friend and I are down there, and you go down at night, so they can't take your picture because it's a $500 or $5,000 fine to go down to watch where the lava, magma, red magma, difference between black lava is it's cold, magma is hot. This river is flowing down, and it has some places you can look in, skylights. But once you get to the ocean, it starts pouring into the ocean, and it just sends up a plume like you've never seen in your whole life. And mind you, we had to walk across the lava to get down to the place to watch the lava flow into the ocean. So we were walking on lava that was so hot that if you stood still long enough and you were foolish enough to wear tennis shoes, the rubber would melt to the lava and you'd have to leave your shoes behind. And walking on lava is it's like glass. It's like razor sharp sometimes. So we'd go down there and watch this, because as it's flowing into the ocean, if it's really a good flow like this, there's an earthquake beneath your feet. Every time there's magma flowing, there's an earthquake. Okay? And when it flows into the ocean, or it does is these kind of plumes send up. You see the junk flowing out the back, that black cloud. That black cloud, whether it's flowing into the ocean or shooting into the air, doesn't matter. It creates lightning right in front of you in the cloud. Lightning. Not a little bit of lightning, a lot of lightning. And it scares the holy crap out of you because the ground is shaking from an earthquake. Lightning is happening in this thing, and Pele's hair, silica that has been released when it goes into the ocean, for some reason, it can create pumice and it floats, or it can explode, methane bomb explosions, or it somehow, I'm not exactly sure the process, creates these little slivers about this long that are as thin as hair, thinner than a hair, and they're silica, they're glass, basically. And if you breathe that stuff in, it'll kill you. So you had to be very careful, to say the least. So my point of today's talk is the big island of Hawaii, called the Black Pearl of the Pacific, is the most amazing place for a psychic to go to test yourself. And it's also a place for an adventurer to go to test yourself. The only problem is when you lose, you die. And I'm not exaggerating. Matter of fact, I was going to show you. I could probably show you this. I don't know if you can see this. You see all those splotches on my arm? That's called haole rot. White person's rot. Because everything that's black that the sun shines on, all the lava, and that's the whole island, really, gets staph, a horrible form of staph. So if you touch it, it's going to eat your skin off. And it will create haole rot. So there are people who, Caucasians who go there, and their whole body is covered with those white spots. And you go, what's that? And they go, I don't know. No one ever tells you anything in Hawaii. People are so laid back. They never get upset about anything. And I was talking to my friend Brian, who's on the island of Maui, has been for years, one of my dear friends, and getting an update on Lahaina because someone asked about Lahaina and if we'd say more about it today. But I was asking him, dude, aren't you freaked out by what's going on at Lahaina? And he goes, no, that's on the other side of the island. That island, you can shoot an arrow across it. I mean, how do you say that it's on the other side of the island and you're not concerned and you're on this tiny little ass island called Maui, which always gave me island fever every time I was there. And I went off into the jungles and explored every bit of it and where there weren't roads. And it's still, after a week, that's it. I got island fever. That's the reason I couldn't teach the Haleakala Waldorf School. Oahu, where Honolulu is, another island, that the other Waldorf school, Mahalapua Waldorf School, no, I couldn't be there because it would have driven me crazy. But on the Big Island, every single day, because I was psychic, and because of this thing called kapu'u, these death curses, they killed a bunch of people to protect something, so no one but the ali'i, the elite, the royalty can look at it. Okay, so the point is, it's a great place to go for a short visit. But if you're going to go and you want just going there because you want to be at the beach, go to Kauai, where the beaches are endless on one side of the island. They're the most beautiful beaches, I think, in the whole world. And there's some good adventure there. But don't go to a few places where there's the kapu'u, because the original Hawaiians, Tahitians, landed on Kauai. And on one place that you have to go if you're going to go to the Nanapali coast, which everybody does, that's the coolest walk, maybe one of the coolest, certainly on Kauai, they threw hundreds of people to their death there to protect the fact that the Hawaiian royalty would come there to watch hula be performed. Hula was sacred, and it was either for warriors or for the elite, for the kings. So you have to be very, very, very careful. And if you go to the Big Island, you better be ready. And so do not go there and say, well, Doug Gabriel told me to come here. Yeah. And then you fall off a cliff, or, you get eaten by something, and don't blame me.
Yeah, well, that brings to mind the old saying of Friedrich Nietzsche. He says, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. End quote.
Yeah. That was Nietzsche? Yeah, yes. Right before he went crazy. And why did he go crazy? Because he was seeing things for exactly the way they are, and that will make you crazy. And yes, one lady says she lived in all the places I loved, Pohiki, where the hot pools are, Red Road, which goes down to Kalapana, where the black sand beaches are, where I'd ride the turtles, and she said, but why? And she says all this nice stuff. Then she goes, but why would you go to those sacred places that have that much kapu'u on them? I had to really stop in my tracks and remember why I did that. And here's why I did that, and why I was attracted to those places. Because though I may or may not, I don't know whether I believe what the last kahuna, Nui, told me, and her protege, that I was this star teacher and come back, had to be there for this ceremony during the full eclipse of the sun and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I believe any of that. Matter of fact, my response to that was, I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. I left during the passing ceremony. I wasn't going to be there. And I left the stone buried on the island in the city of refuge. So I wasn't worried. I don't need that. By that time, I was tired of trying to chase down my previous incarnations and make sense of this condition I have. So I wasn't worried about that. So she says, why did you go to those places? Okay, today I'm going to tell you about a few of those places that literally only the Hawaiian royalty went to, and they have big fences with razor wire at the top that we had to cut our way in to get into these places. And you couldn't see them, so you didn't know what they were, and there was no access any other way. So here's the answer to that. I thought about it all for a day and came up with this. When I first went to these places, I saw all of that. I saw that the first time I went to Oahu, the first time I went to Maui, and certainly as soon as I went to the Big Island or Kauai, I saw that. But here's what happened: I'd go and I'd interact like I said, it's a good place to test you as a psychic. I'd go and I'd see what I could see, right? Feel what I could feel, know what I could know through intuition by interacting with these beings. And I thought, as a good exorcist, I was going to get rid of these so it stopped bothering people, right? That's how naive I was. That's like really stupid. That's like going to the Mexican mystery pyramids and thinking you can undo the human sacrifice that has happened there. That's how stupid that is, right? That's why I've never gone to deep into South America, even though I've been invited many times, because I know those curses will get me as they got me in Hawaii. Because at first I didn't know how to protect myself from these beings, and they are as ferocious as anything a human can create. Plus, the elemental life in Hawaii is so rampant and just rising up. There's no real soil there, it just rises up from the depths of the core of the earth. And you have total access to the elemental kingdom of all elements. And if you're a magician, if you can't do magic in Hawaii, then you're not going to do it anywhere.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I mean, I had that experience at Teotihuacan, and that was like back in what, like 1973 or 4, something like that. And I took one look at it and I said, no way, I'm going. I have no desire to confront the wickedness that has taken place. And you have the accounts of the Jesuit accounts of the Aztecs sacrificing 35,000 people in one day. I mean, there were very, very dark rites practiced in many places at different periods of time. As people began to lose their innate clairvoyance that was bestowed upon them by the higher and lower beings, that they did more extreme things to attempt to try and interact with the unseen worlds. And you have all this stuff. I mean, it's in the Old Testament. It's all over the place. And Jesus Christ put an end to that. So that's the last official blood sacrifice.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing that you go to a luau on the Kona coast and you're eating a pig and you have no idea that just takes the place of the human sacrifices they used to do. And so many people were killed on those islands with these kapu'u. So I'm trying to wrestle with these beings. As I told you, I think in the last talk, that my friend takes me right there. First place we go. Oh, let's go up to Boiling Pots. I want to show you something. And here's a 27, 30 foot tall naga serpent snake, like a dragon, a water dragon, up out of the water right by the waterfall looking at me. And I'm like, you don't see that, Gary? He goes, no. All right, let's go swimming. So I didn't know what that, but that's not a place. Those were human sacrifices. That was a rite of passage for young men, and many young men died in the boiling pots. But anyway, so I tried to wrestle with these beings, right? Because they'd always draw me to them because I could see them from miles away. I could feel them. I could wake up in the morning and go, oh, I know where we're going, but I've never been there. Let's go. And I'd go and find a little trail. I had a little 4-wheel drive Jeep. It was a red station wagon Jeep with a white hood in the front, just like Vajrayogini. You got the Vajrayogini? She's got a red body, naked, with a white tongue. And I'm like, oh, I saw this vehicle. This is my vehicle. This is my Vajrayogini vehicle. I took that thing. I can't believe it. Finally, the lava took that Jeep. The lava came into Kalapana. I'd given the Jeep to somebody. They couldn't get it out. The lava lifted it up. And in the nightly news, here's my vehicle, because it's a great shot of this. It didn't quite eat it up. It lifted it up. And I took that little thing on the roads where you shouldn't have taken any car, but I didn't care. It cost so little that I said, I'll just leave it. If anything happens, I'll just leave it. I'll walk out. So I would go to these places with kapu'u. And then I finally realized, here's the answer to your question. The lady who asked who was down in Puna, I knew I was a li'i. That much I knew. I was 100% sure of that. You know how I was sure of that? John's real smart. He probably has figured it out already. How did I know by going to places where there was kapu'u that I was reincarnated Hawaiian who was royalty because I was a li'i? Because the spirits didn't bother me. I was a li'i and I knew it. So they didn't bother me. They were there. The royalty could go there, but anybody else, the peasants couldn't go there. If they went there, these places were usually on cliffs. If anyone was caught even peeking, they'd throw them off the cliff.
Yeah, in the esoteric teachings of Sufism, they have a doctrine, and it was something that was shared by Mir Baba and Hazrat Inayat Khan and various other Sufi teachers, but that there's different classes of beings, but the fifth form is interesting, and it brings to mind the homeless woman that you mentioned. I'm not saying that she is or isn't anything, but that there's the madzub, as they're called, or musts, although it's spelled like mass in the Mir Baba references. But Hazrat says the fifth form in which a person who lives the inner life appears is a strange form, a form which very few people can understand. He puts on the mask of innocence outwardly to such an extent that those who do not understand may easily consider him unbalanced, peculiar, or strange. He does not mind about it for the reason that it is only his shield. If he were to admit before humanity the power that he has, thousands of people would go after him and he would not have one moment to live his inner life. And it goes on and discusses how they play a role in the equilibrating of nature. And it's very akin to the Hopi traditions regarding that. And most cultures in the East have that. In fact, our friend Les Collins, when he was in Tibet, and the Chinese military came up to him with the guns and all that, and he grabbed his flute and just started playing his flute like a madman, and they figured he was one of those guys, the divinely intoxicated ones. But they're shall we say, stuck, fixated in certain planes of being that is not the normal state of being. And just so you know, there's all these various things, and to make a hasty decision as far as what it may mean and who's what and where, the best thing to do is tend your own garden.
Yeah. That's why I called her Celeste, John, because she was always celestial. She was always happy. She was always in ecstasy. She looked like she was on dope all the time. She was just, and she had no cares, just happy. And I think that's how the last Kahuna Nui's protege found her, because when you meet this woman, you just go, I don't understand what you're saying, but it doesn't matter. Hey, let me take you to dinner and, whatever. And she's like, yeah, everything's beautiful. Everything's great. She's never seen her worried, she's a homeless woman, never seen her worried, never seen her ill, nothing. And they passed on the entire Hawaiian kingdom to her on that heiau where King Kamehameha took the life of his cousin, the last life. And then for 200 years, because of the Star Teacher was also considered a magician. And so it was a spell that he put on all the warriors. Remember, all the islands were at war. And then this thing happened. And then boom, no more war forever between the Hawaiians. How did that happen? Who was this person? I don't know. But they passed everything on to her, as I told you before, the throne, the staff, the tapa. And later, she lived at another house and moved over there, and I have no idea what happened to the woman or that stuff. It's just incredible that this kind of stuff happens in Hawaii, that the sacred stones on the heiau, they're just left there and no one touches them. We gathered up, I don't know, a dozen of them, put them all in one place. It was created so much energy. And then they blamed us because right after that, the volcano started going off and started taking house after house after house after house after house. And then it took the black sand beach, which really, really, really broke my heart, because in some of the first days I was there, to get out of the rain, I'd go down to the southern side of the island and go swimming in Black Sand Beach. Well, I'm out there with my snorkel and my mask and swimming with my fins. And all of a sudden I look up, and here is a huge turtle whose head must be this big. You could probably bite my head off. A green turtle, they're huge, right? And he's just, sitting there underwater looking at me. And I'm like, come on, I am scared to death. And I didn't get scared easily, because it could literally snap my hand off, because they have a beak, And so then it turns around like this right in front of me, points its hind end at me, goes down a little bit in the water. And I'm like, cut it out. It is like a $500 or $5,000 fine. I can't remember. If you ride a turtle, well, hell, that turtle became my favorite friend. I would grab her behind the thing and she'd take off. Well, the first time that happened, she went, I didn't know turtles ride currents. They don't flap. And so those flappers, those are like, I don't know what you call them. They're like an airplane underwater. They go so fast. It's absolutely astounding. First time it happened to me, I was like, and no one told me about this. No one told me these turtles live there, or that this big mama turtles always go back to the same beach to lay their eggs that they were born on, supposedly. So here's this big turtle. So I grab it. It takes me down. My ears start popping again and again. I'm like so ecstatic. And then I look around and I look up and I'm going, oh, I'm like 35 feet deep. I'm not even sure I can immediately just go straight up. I was a scuba diver. I was very concerned about such things. And I had nothing to push off of. So here I am trying to swim, almost drown. The first time I ever rode a giant green turtle. First time Brian, that guy in the picture that I showed you, first time that we were over on Oahu. Why was he on Oahu? I don't know, but I was over there with him and said, we were in Hanauma Bay, and I said, don't ride the painted turtles. Don't. And he says, why? He says, because once you get beyond that break, the ocean is pull you out. It's like, really bad currents. That's why the turtles come in there. So what did he do? First damn thing he did, grabbed a turtle, a little one, grabbed it behind it, and they move like lightning. And pretty soon they took him out of the bay and out beyond the break water. And I'm looking up and I'm going, oh my God, where's Brian? And so I start swimming out there because I'm looking around. I got my eyes, where's Brian? Where's Brian? Where's Brian? I get past it and here's Brian coming to the surface, and basically, I had to help him get back into the Bay Area. That's what I'm talking about. People can get killed in Hawaii so quickly, you can't believe it. Now, I'm going to tell you that I believe in the end that since I thought I was a li'i reincarnated, that I could go to any kapu'u site. So therefore, I made it my mission to go to every one that I could find. So I would ask the old Hawaiians about the island. Now, there were two types kind of that you generally find of the old Hawaiians. One who would, you're not going to believe this, it's 36 miles around the island, the big island. They lived in Hilo. They'd never been to the other side of the island. And they're like 65 years old. And I'm saying, I'll be glad to drive you over there. Would you like to go over there? He goes, no, I have to save something for my old age. I have to save a treat. So I guess before he dies, they're going to go over there to take a look at the other side of the island, but they don't care. They stay right where they're at. And they keep their rooms filled with spam because they don't like the people who have taken over their island. Remember, Japanese are the most populous there, Caucasians the second, Hawaiians the third or fourth. It depends right now. So, these people would tell me these things because there was also the adventurer type of Hawaiian who would say, oh, yeah, go to Ili Ili Stone Beach. And I'm like, Ili Ili Stone Beach, cool. Ili Ili stones are those black Hawaiian rocks about like this, and they're flat, and they put them two in a hand, and they use them for chanting and for healing and for music. And they have to be very, very consistent. So they have to have, I don't know why some lava rock is very porous and others is very, very hard. So anyway, I asked around for years, and finally somebody says, a lady who was running another Buddhist temple said, oh, I know where that is. I know where the road is. And I said, you know where the road to Ili Rock beaches? And she says, yes. I said, will you show me? She says, yes, but it's pretty impassable. I said, I don't care. So we went there, and we're going down this road, and the bushes, the things are so overgrown that we're having to push the limbs out of the way, and one limb snaps back and breaks one of my windows. And it's like, oh, so what? I'm in Hawaii. We only had the windows up because we were going through so much water and so much crazy stuff that we put the windows up. Broke out a window. When we get there, there's a house over here, and nobody's there, and there's no road to it. So this was the road? This is the only road? This road is truly impassable. I thought I was going to get stuck there. After that, I always walk there, but it was still like a mile in. So we get there, and then there's this emergency hut, and there's an outrigger, a canoe over there, and there's life preservers and stuff. Okay, over here, first thing we see is like, wow, I haven't seen that except in really terrible areas. So we go a little further, and here's this beach. Now, to describe this beach to you, you won't believe it. I have been checking ever since I lived there to see if someone ever posts a picture of this place. Never seen a picture. And yet it's one of the great geological wonders of the Hawaiian Islands. This beach is very narrow, and it takes the stones and grinds them up so beautifully that they're in these big ili stones. Well, if you step on those, they suck you into it. The beach is so packed with these stones, billions of them. You step on it like you step on a sand beach, it'll suck you right in. And it says right there on the sign, what's it called? The undertow, but it's called a rip current. It says, beware of the rip current, right? And so the person who brings us there says, well, I want to gather some of these stones because they're very expensive, and they sell them in the stores for, they're very rare also, very, very rare. So she's at this beach, but right there in front of us, 35, 40-foot tall basalt pillars, two of them, boom, just rising right up out of the ocean. And you're like, how did that happen? So I guess the basalt had mixed with the lava and then wore off all the lava that was so consistent that it made these fantastic stones. So here you are with, the two pillars, Joachim and Boaz, and in the middle is a beach you can't step on. And if you do step on it, you better be careful. So off to the side is about a 300-yard, 50-foot tall collapsed lava tube where the ocean is flowing in on the ocean side and coming all the way through. And on the land side, there's a beach even on the outside of it. So the water literally comes through this giant, giant, giant lava tube. And at low tide, you can go in and get in there. And we did that because we weren't paying any attention. I was stupid. And I didn't know the tides at that moment or there. So we go in and we climb up on this thing, and then the water keeps rising, and we're way down at the other end. The water keeps rising real fast. We're like, okay, we got to carefully but hurry, get back. And the water rises, and the water rises, and the water rises, and oh my God, it gets so high. We're like, I think it's going to take us. I don't know that we'll get out. So Gary and I are hanging on, literally up at the top of this lava tube, which is like 50 feet tall. So I don't know. There's certain beaches that do the strangest things in Hawaii. That it's the only beach that does that. For instance, there's a beach that's called Green Sand Beach, and all the olivine makes the beach green, and the people go nuts to go see Green Sand Beach. But anyway, so you got the two big basalt pillars, and then you got the collapsed lava tube over here that is making sounds that I thought were going to explode my brain, because these rocks make such loud sounds. I guess that's probably why the Hawaiians said, oh, we'll use them for it. When every wave makes so much noise that it's scary. Okay. So we go in the tube, we almost die. We come out and we hang out there for the whole day. And then the tide goes out again. And then she goes over to collect some stones, right? And we watch the beach eats her, pulls her right into the water. And she's a great swimmer. She's the one who told me about this. She lived there for years in Hawaii. So she's trying to swim to shore, and she can't swim to shore. No matter what she does, she's swimming as hard as she can, and she just keeps going further out, further out, and further out. So we have to grab the outrigger, the canoe, to go out to get her, to bring her in. That's the way Hawaii is. Beauty has astounding power with it. And so meeting Pele and understanding the power of Pele and the fact that that whole island is her blood, and that's why you don't take a piece of her blood off the island. That's really taking a piece of her. So you have to have respect for her. Now, mind you, she shows up all over the island, as I said, either as an old woman, really ugly old woman, kind of like this homeless person was. She could hardly look at her. She was really bizarre looking, okay? So I didn't know. There was times I wondered whether Celeste was Pele, or one of these beings you were just describing. But you'd also see her as a beautiful woman walking. She'd be an old woman with a dog, a young woman, a beautiful young woman with long black hair, a woman with a dog. And then you'd stop and you'd turn around and she wouldn't be there. This happens all the time to tourists, to everyone who lives there. If you lived on the island and you become a child of the island, a Kamaina, you probably had multiple experiences with Pele. So it's the best place for psychic experiences, as well as the beauty of nature.
Yeah, and to perhaps continue a little bit in talking about the Madzub, Hazrat Iniak Khan, who was the father of a gentleman that we both knew, Pir Vilayat Khan, and his, of course, Pir's sister was Noor, the first radio operator in Europe for the Allied forces, who was tortured to death by the Nazis after being captured. So it's very much embedded in life as we know it. But he says, regarding the Madzub, if he were to admit before humanity the power that he has, thousands of people would go after him and he would not have one moment to live his inner life. The enormous power that he possesses governs inwardly lands and countries, controlling them and keeping them safe from disasters such as floods and plagues, and also wars, keeping harmony in the country or in the place in which he lives. And all this is done by his silence, his constant realization of the inner life. So you go back to what Yogananda said. He said the reason that India is still around and it has existed since time immemorial is that there's always at least 7 enlightened beings living there. And so there's these certain cosmic equilibrating forces that Douglas is alluding to. And again, we're not making any claims for any particular individuals. It's just having an understanding of the place that consciousness plays within the equilibrating forces of nature.
And when you get to a place where literally there's no ground and the atmosphere is so filled with water and salt, which is really what causes fire, and consciousness is just absolutely turned into a dream. People don't read books in Hawaii because all the pages turn up on the corners. People don't, there's nobody doing much studious work and really think it's called Hawaiian time. It's fine. They don't care. It's fine. Everything, Shakapra, everything's fine. Everything's always fine until someone gets really, really fierce about it. So they would probably kill you if they found you in the next place I'm going to describe. It was called the Queen's Baths. It's on the Kona side, and I'm not going to tell people where this is because I don't want people going there. We had to climb fences and go in, and you couldn't access this any way except to go over fences that were locked. And the road going there was horrifying, and you wouldn't know it. It was across giant lava fields. You had to walk a couple miles across lava fields, and finally you get to this little oasis, but you couldn't see it unless you were right on top of it. So the water was heated by the volcano underground, and it came to a pool, and it was really hot. And that was the Queen's first pool. And then they had made beautiful steps, and it was just made just for the Queen. And she'd go from one pool really hot to the next pool a little less hot to the next pool. There were 7 of them. And they had carved them out of the lava at a place where a hot springs was coming right out of the lava. And once you went to below that, you were in the little village. The most beautiful place I've ever been in Hawaii. Matter of fact, any paradise, any of these tropical islands, I've never seen any place more beautiful. The sand was as white as my shirt. They're beautiful palm trees, but fruit trees growing everywhere. You know, all you had to do is pick up the guavas, pick up the mangoes, pick up the bananas and the coconuts. You could live there. We actually did sometimes go out there, hide our car and go in there and stay there for the weekend, you know. And they literally had these ancient huts and stuff that were still there. They hadn't touched this place for I don't know how long. I asked about this for years and years, never found anything out. Finally, I find out that yes, this was the Queen's personal place, her little village where they just tended the Queen. And it was the most beautiful beach. And the way that it was set up, the water was always calm. And it was just absolutely perfect. But while you're in the Queen's pools, if you touch the black lava, you're going to come out with, you took a bath in staphylococcus, or stapha, whatever it's called. And you are covered with this stuff. And so, you know, you better go swimming in the ocean and, you know, get the salt to clean it off, because otherwise you'll get howley rot. And if they found you there, oh, I'm pretty sure that the Hawaiians would simply kill you and make sure no one found your body. Because people go missing, they die all the time. I was there one day watching the Greenpeace guys are free divers. And you know what free diving is, right? They go down without anything as far as they can and come up and they measure it. We're right there. And he's literally, I was just talking to him. I'm on a boat. He's on his boat and we're watching this. And he says, yeah, you sure? Come on. You want to try this? I go, no, you're out of your mind. No, forget it. And he goes down. He doesn't come up. Did they find his body? No. Now, how many sharks swim there? I used to swim there all the time, all that western coast. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But let's go to the Shipman Beach. The Shipman Beach is highly forbidden. And they tell you, you go there, they will shoot you. The Shipmans are very rich people. We used to get money from the school, from them and the bishops and the Watermills and all these people. So I was there on a visit after I had left. And I said, you know what? There's one place I haven't gone, because you got to hike like 10 miles or something. I don't know, long way along the beach. There's no path. It's rugged lava, no beaches. So we go there with a friend. And this place is amazing, because really no one lives there, because you can't swim on this beach. Why? Because there's a big old house and big old, all this beautiful stuff. And then they have this pond. Well, the pond is filled with sand, and the beach moves the sand into the pond and then moves the sand from the pond to the beach with the tides. So if you walk out onto the sand beach, like me and my friend, my friend and I always get that wrong. Anyway, we walk onto this beach and we're standing there just for a second, and all of a sudden we're in quicksand and it's swirling like this. And it's sucking you down to it. And literally, because we had gone out, we were getting ready to swim, you know, and the beach was long. And so we're there and we're like, oh my God. And so I had to grab my friend and pull them out of what seems to be what would you even call that? A vortex of sand swirling down that's like liquid, and it's going to eat you. And so he found this very funny. So I got something he hung on to, and he'd go out and he'd say, well, I want to see how far it's going to take me down. I said, it's going to take you all the way down. What are you talking about? That's why they say this is the forbidden beach. No one can swim here, not at the wrong time of the day. You swim it. So we stayed there for a couple of days and had an amazing time, acting like we owned the place, swimming in this beautiful pond, which was a brackish water. So it was partly water, fresh water coming up, meeting the ocean water. And, you know, it was a place you could see orcas, killer whales. But I'll go there in a minute. Now, someone also who's a subscriber said, have you been to South Point on the Big Island? I'm like, oh, you must be kidding. Yes, of course I've been to. You know, the southernmost place in America is, everyone will say Florida. No, it's Hawaii. It's called South Point. That's why they call it South Point. But right before you get to South Point, just a few hundred yards, you're on this big flat surface, and the cliffs drop right off about, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 feet, depending on where you're at, 50 feet. And So you could drive. First time I drove up there, no one told me this. No one in Hawaii tells you any of this. Nobody tells you where these places are. Now they do. I understand it's filled with people, but when I was there, nobody did. So we drive right up, and I drive up, and I'm going, oh, look at that. There's like this. Oh, I think there's a ladder there. You can jump off the cliffs and go into the water. So we're driving, and I stopped like 10 feet before a big hole that I didn't see where my car would have gone right in. Well, you stand there and you jump off and go like 30 feet down into the ocean in this hole in the ground, and you're in a cave and you're swimming around this cool cave, and you come out and you climb up this ladder, and it's absolutely terrifying, by the way. So, and if you do it at the wrong time and the winds change or you get a rogue wave, if you get a rogue wave there, that's a blowhole. This is what the people don't understand. Oh, they made this so I can jump in the ocean conveniently. It's a blowhole. So when the waves come in, they've dug out a cave and they're so powerful that they shoot up. Imagine if you're there when that happens. But anyway, and then right down the beach, it's actually a terrible long drive on a non-road. You go down to Green Sand Beach and everybody thinks it's such a big deal. It's not really all that green, but the peridot in it, the olivine, it's great. You bury yourself in it and you get healed and all that kind of stuff. So I could go on and on and on all day, 2 days, 3 days, telling you one more amazing place after the next. But I also wanted to mention this. People in Hawaii are taken advantage of horribly. When I was there, we protested against the Puna hydroelectric plant. And the subscriber mentioned this and said that it was now people are getting sick because they're releasing stuff that they're not supposed to release. They're digging down too deep. They're creating earthquakes. Could be that they're messing around with the Big Island has created all these flows in the last few years. But the lava, the magma has been flowing into the ocean now for years and years and years. I don't know how many years, 40 years. But anyway, so they put in this power plant and it never worked. It never done anything. They did the same thing in Maui. It was a total disaster. And that's just one thing they did. Then one day they decided, as I said, to blow up a tungsten bomb over Oahu, and it looked like the moon exploding, a tungsten bomb. Imagine that it's going to be so big that they're going to cover the whole island of Oahu, so a missile coming in will or will not be able to be seen through the tungsten blast, because they're thinking this is the way to keep nuclear bombs from dropping on us with tungsten implosions they were. And that's the reason we didn't understand it. It wasn't an explosion. It was an implosion that then turned into an explosion, which we thought the moon had blown up. So what did they do while I was there? Oh, they set off another barium bomb to check out the Van Allen belt right over the number one place in the where we lived to go surfing. And within the year, everyone was getting skin cancer. And when they were confronted with this and sued with this, what did they say? Oh, it's okay. They go to another side of the island and go surfing. They didn't care. The poison coming from the VOG, where the pu'u'o'o is always giving off VOG. It's a sulfurous fumes mixing with water and stuff. And the prevailing winds blew it right over to Hilo, or it would blow it right over to Kailua's side. So depending upon where the wind was, every morning at school when I'd look up, it'd either be overcast with VOG, or it would be so beautiful it'd make you want to cry, because you'd see all three of the mountains, and they're just so beautiful. It's ridiculous. So eventually, I'd lived there for 5 years, but eventually the local populace said, this stuff is killing us. So they came in and they did all these health meetings where they said, don't you worry. It's not hurting you at all. As long as you breathe through your nose. Don't breathe through your mouth. It turns into sulfuric acid. Don't do that. We're all breathing sulfuric acid if we breathe through our mouth, and you tell us there's no health hazards here. Okay. They did stuff like that all the time. They almost experimented on the Hawaiians as much as they experiment on people in the military. So when you go there, you have to, first off, Don't get howley rot. Use antibacterial soap or your skin will rot off if you're on the Big Island. Don't touch anything black that's in the sunlight. Don't get into a steam vent. Don't get into any hot pools underground. They burp and you fry alive. As I told you, we found bones in these places. Don't go to any place that's got poo. Don't go any place that's got a fence around it. And whatever you do, never turn your back on the ocean, because people are taken every week. Somebody gets taken by a rogue wave. And be careful, because when you're swimming on the Big Island, when you're swimming in a river, you are swimming in glyphosate. You are swimming in Roundup, because coffee is the most pesticided substance. Next, and the second one is pineapple. The two things that grow in Hawaii really big time. They're supposed to dilute it 1 to 20, 1 to even 200 sometimes. They don't dilute it at all. And they spray it to keep the plant, it's a herbicide, and they gas and spray for pesticides. So you can think you're walking along and you go, oh, I'm going to sneak a banana from this field over here, which you usually can't because there's a bag of gas around it. But let's say you get a papaya. Well, if the tree is got a spiral in it, be careful, because that is a mutation created by glyphosate. So you could drive along and you see that glyphosate literally changes the way the plants grow there. So don't think you're going to a paradise. They call it a paradise. There's also deadly centipedes, deadly scorpions, so many deadly things in the ocean. I won't go into mention them. There's 10 types of deadly snails. There's urchins. There's deadly sea cucumbers. So if you think you're going there for fun, well, that's very nice. But what I love to do, because I finally figured it out in Kealakekua Bay, that if I ask a dolphin from my heart of hearts, you got to go to your heart of hearts, and you say, please, dolphin pod, come swim near me so I can get all excited as a human, because we get off on that. I finally figured it out, because I'd chase them, I'd race after them. I took people out there all the time, and, I'd make noises and blah, 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 try to get them to come to me. No, finally one day I'm all alone out in Kealakekua Bay, and I say, wait a second, I'm so stupid. I just have to talk to them. So I asked them to come. I've told this story before. You've heard it, right? 6 of them come and start swirling below me, about 35 feet below me. And then I say, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Now, would you come and breach? So my friends who are swimming over there that I brought out here so they can be impressed that you breached. Okay. They did that like over and over again. And then when the other people came near, they left. So I finally figured out, and then I was swimming to shore and I'm going, oh, well, come swim with me. One pod after the next. There's usually 5 pods of dolphins, 3 types, in Kealakekua Bay. A pod comes right up. They're within touching distance, but don't touch them. And on the way in, I'm swimming and I run into what I think is the dock, and I'm going, I'm not at the dock yet. What's going on? I back up and I look and I see this wall and it's got dots on it. And the wall's moving, and I'm going, wait, I'm not moving. Why is the wall moving? And so I back up further, and it's a whale shark. I'd ran my head into a whale shark. A whale shark can, fit like 10 people in their mouth. It's gigantic, right? And and then I trained a lady who, well, I don't mind advertising her. Her name is Joan Ocean. We got the dolphins to come there all the time, especially for pregnant women. So pregnant women come from all over the world there. It's called a dolphin swim, and they swim with the dolphins, and the dolphins come, and they know who's pregnant. They'll even know if the woman's pregnant before she's pregnant. They'll come close to them. They won't come close to anybody else. And one dolphin, it was kind of orphaned or something, and we kind of trained this dolphin so that people could actually touch it in the wild. And so it was a really big deal. Up the coast, I'd swim with the whales. Literally, they'd come so close I could touch them. I wouldn't touch them. And they were so big that they looked like an island when they'd come up. And it was scary, I must admit. It was terrifying. And sometimes they'd come with their little babies that are perfectly white. And as the whales are swimming right next to me, I'm looking down, and there's, a dozen hammerhead sharks, much bigger than I am, down at the bottom going around. There's tiger sharks.
But this story will never end. He has many stories like this. In fact, as you listen to Douglas tell these
I was only
stories,
warming up.
I know that. As your wife, I know how this goes. But let me just say, so you can see, if you're listening and watching Douglas over the years, he's just filled with material to do treatments like poor Indiana Jones. I mean, as you were talking about this adventure, I hear the theme music playing in my head.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much to.
You said it the other day. Kathleen needs to do Indiana Jones Goes to Hawaii.
But you bring to mind John C. Lilly, the fascinating character. I had some contact with his wife, Tony, when we were considering opening. Cal Barber from Living Theater in Europe and I were considering opening a deprivation tank center. And so we were in contact with her because John C. Lilly, not the computer guy that with Mozilla, that's a different guy. But Lilly was a neuroscientist, a psychoanalyst, and self-described psychonaut. But he was the one who really pioneered communication with bottlenose dolphins, and he was extremely convinced. And actually, Time Magazine, I think it was, Newsweek or Time, I don't remember, they called John C. Lilly a walking syllabus of Western science. And so this guy was a multidisciplinary scientist that did deep level communication experiments with these dolphins. So you see, and something that it's funny because I was thinking of talking about that today, and in a previous podcast I talked about how nice it was that there was a rabbit that came, and I like to go sit on the porch, and the rabbit would just come and sit there and occupy the morning with me for a little while. Well, that happened again, and so that's kind of auspicious in these types of situations that nature kind of gives you a little nudge. And so Douglas is very much animated in his relationship to nature. And there's a lot of things that you don't want to do at home that somebody as adventurous as Douglas would come up with for an idea, like Pa'u'u or whatever, these deadly places. It's much for the mind to wrap around, but I think that if you want to get into a deeper relationship with things, you have to come to terms with the idea that things change over time, and that there were certain rights and all of that have expired, really. And they even say that themselves, like the Mayan calendar running out, and the 25,920 year cycle on the Hawaiians, the Tahitians with their relationship to the Pleiades. And so there's all these various things, but we are the map of all of that, really. And so just as the precession of the equinox, where the axis of the earth goes backwards through the zodiac in 25,920 years, when they talk about the age of Aquarius, that's 1/12 of that. But the interesting thing is there's people that would argue the point about 25,920 years. They say, well, and depending on what you use for your orientation, is starting to come up with a different number. But Rudolf Steiner pointed out that the real key is that you take on average 25,920 breaths in a day. And that has a cyclical relationship to your heartbeat. And that it's the centering within that realm with your individual self, your Christ in you, can give you a sense of courage so you can do some crazy things like what Douglas likes to do. I myself have traveled that path, but I don't recommend it for everyone. But I want to thank Douglas for sharing so much with us, and it seems as if this is a never-ending story.
I got more.
You got more. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
As soon as it stopped raining when I got to Hawaii, I'm going down the street with my friend. I'm driving this truck, and a white owl. Hawaii doesn't even have owls, let alone an albino owl, comes right onto our truck, onto the windshield, spread with its wings spread, covers the whole windshield. I can't see. I have to roll down the window and look out to see if anyone's coming because I'm on the highway. Look back, and right there, and looking in my eye, is a white owl looking at me. just looking at me. And I'm like, so I ask everybody, well, what's the deal with the owl? There's no owls. There's hardly any birds. There's only some geese and some other little birds. They're pretty much gone. And the bad things that have come to the island that I've mentioned before were brought by Westerners. And also, John mentioned the stars on Mauna Kea is 4 or 5 observatories for stars. So I'd go up there and people would get very sick. I could snow ski up there, go down one of the steepest mountains in America, one of the steepest roads, go to Hilo Bay, and then ski on the ocean in the same day with my trunk full of snow, throwing snowballs at people. So this is the extremes that happen there. And on the other big mountain, Mauna Loa, that is a solar observatory. So no one goes up there. The road is so horrible. And if you go up there, I've been in there and, played around and met those people. And then you walk further and you go to this caldera crater, which literally, I never found a single person who ever went to that caldera crater. So when you get to these places, oftentimes you're alone. Why? Because they're so dangerous, they're so beautiful, and there's so much power there that they actually scare people. And that's what I'd like for you to understand. The Big Island is the pearl, the black pearl of the Pacific, but it can also be your tomb.
Yeah. And if you die, nobody will even know.
No, they don't even look for you.
Where'd Douglas go? Oh, maybe he went back to the States.
They just go, road wave. They just
Okay,
say,
but
road wave.
you didn't, and you have to wrap it up because a lot of people ask you to tie all this into the current events in Lahaina. So
okay, Lahaina was always the seat of the government. That was where King Kamehameha was to begin with. That was their port. It is the most valuable piece of land in all of Hawaii. They've been trying to get them out of there. In 1898, when we annexed Hawaii, it was later proven to be illegal. So Hawaiians, after the passing, didn't demand to get all their stuff back. But if they were to demand it anymore, when they were demanding it, what did they want? All of Lahaina. They wanted certain sacred ground. And in Lahaina, you can turn around every day and see a double rainbow. I mean, what kind of place in the mountains that you can go where it's perfect weather, everything's beautiful. This is the best land there was. And as I said before, they burn the cane every 2 years. They burn all the fields. Never been a wildfire that took Lahaina. Never been a wildfire that got anywhere near it. So how in the world did this wildfire, they left the electricity on, all they have to do is take diffuse microwave, send it down onto the active wires, and it electrifies all of them and makes them all explode and burn. That's exactly what happened. And notice the State House and some other places weren't touched. Notice that some of the places owned by rich people, they weren't touched. Not only they had blue roofs so that these dews, they call them, basically they're accelerated particle beams, but now they're microwave. They just send that down in California. We can see the communities it happened. We know this is true because the trees burn from the inside out, period. What could do that? One thing, microwave, period.
Yeah, you see a car and it's like all melted, and right next to it there's bushes that are fine. It's like, how does that happen in the real world? Yeah, and well, that gets into scientism. And why do scientists do things? Well, because they can, and that's how crazy the abstract materialist is. They ultimately, if they continue on, they just go crazy.
They call it jump smart. They put in all the industries in the last 5 years to prepare to turn Lahaina into a 15-minute city. So it can be the ultimate place that if the rich people get actually bothered by 15-minute cities, they can go to Lahaina and live in luxury. But they had to get all those ancient lands, which is still debated. It's still debated. They still have sovereignty there. And that's why they had to pay everyone off immediately because of the sovereignty issues. If they don't, and that's the reason the State House didn't burn. That's the reason certain parts of Lahaina did not burn. That's the reason that they didn't burn up the banyan tree. They left some things sacred to the Hawaiians, and then they're trying to pay them off so that richer people can move in so that it can be a closed, it's like a gated village, a gated city. It can be a closed 15-minute city that you can only access by air or water. And the airport is just a few miles from there. Now, my friend who I talked to today, who is on that island says that nobody goes over there. Everyone knows it's toxic. Everybody's kicked in and tried to help everybody there who lives on the island. There's only 80,000 people live on that island, but it doubles when the tourists come. Lahaina was filled with tourists. I seldom ever went to Lahaina unless I was doing readings for people, because it's a tourist trap, right? But if you go to the older buildings, those belong to really Kama'aina. Those are people of the island. And it's a terrible thing that they've done. And the rich people who live there will do that to the whole island, in my estimation, because Lahaina is only the tip of their plan. They already say they want to do that to the whole island. They're going to put in, I think, three or four sections, which will be these 15-minute cities. Now, technically, Maui is a very small place. Why are they doing this? Because they can control the entire environment, and because the spread of the microwave and the 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, 9G, 10G. I know you think I'm making that up. There's already been 10G. 6G has been operative for a long time, doing medical stuff. 5G is an illusion that gets you used to the fact that they can turn it up to anything, any frequency they want. There is no limit. Why do people, and by the way, the oscillators that they create for these things, they have an entire place on Maui that is one of the leading cutting edges of this. So
yeah, it's just a question of calibration.
Really. And recently I had pointed out that they had created lasers that could be burst. In other words, not laser beams anymore, but photon bursts, right? And these photon bursts are just like photon torpedoes in Star Trek. And when you saw what was happening there, they had green ones, they had blue ones, and they were all over the Hawaiian Islands, and they'd come down in things like this, and they'd shoot down like this. And people said, what the heck is this? Well, I'll tell you what that is. That's exactly what I just said. That's at a microwave frequency. It's a directed energy weapon, an accelerated particle beam, and it can fry any electric. And so any electricity, any wires in your house are going to turn on fire. This is like it's worse than an EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon. But basically, it's a slow burning EMP. And it's the same thing happened twice, 3, 4 times in Hawaii. In California, they blamed it on the fires. It wasn't the fires. And look at the trees right next to them. They burned from the inside out. And then they tried to say that was a wildfire too. No, I had friends there. Tyler knows this guy. He told us that he was standing there, and before the fires ever got to his house, piles of wood burst into fantastic flame.
Yeah.
Not possible. The wind wasn't anywhere near. The flame wasn't anywhere near. And he watched this happen to a number of things. His shed burst into flames when there was no fire anywhere near it. So if people, but they were cleared out, of course, in California. But in Hawaii, they left them there. Why? Because they know those people are going to fight them. They're going to fight for their sovereign land. And they're going to fight to get the right to be paid properly. And even then, stay on the land. And that's the reason they had to kill so many. And we don't know how many killed. No, notice, we still don't know what happened to the 8 to 1,000 missing people. Well, how do they come up missing on that tiny island? It's not possible. Folks, this is a genocide of people living on Maui, and they really hate the Hawaiians. They've been doing this, since the late 1800s. And they need this land because this is the sovereign land. This is the most important piece of land in all of Hawaii.
And it could be the most protected, like Palm Beach down in Florida. It's an island. So if somebody robs one of the homes there, well, they just shut down you can't get off the island, they'll find you. It's that clear. And plus to have the perfect beaches and everything. It's just, it's just one of those places that's one of the most desirable places on earth. But that being said, that's a long story that could be pursued on that one for sure. And so I want to thank everybody because we ran a little bit over this time. I hope you'll forgive us, but that's okay. And we want to thank you all for coming to see us again. And this is Dr. Douglas Gabriel, and I'm John Barnwell. And the producer is the industrious Dr. Tyler Gabriel. There she is.
There. Thank y'all. That was a fun show. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. Douglas, you were
Yeah.
animated, and I felt like I was right there with you in the story. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
That means I get a dessert. Thank you,
Oh.
and lunch too, probably. Thank you.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.